personal philosophy is to empower people, for them to go and figure out things on their own within the company. I'm not a micromanager. Everybody who works with me know that they have a freedom to bring new, better ideas than me. And I always say, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of OpsTalk by Paired. I'm your host, Martin, and today my guest is Elizabeth Solomeina, co-founder and managing director of Flying Solo, a fashion retail store in New York and Paris with 10 years in business, 42 runway shows, and with over 468 magazine placements for their designers just last year under their belt. So I'm very excited for this one. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you because when our CEO connected us and I started doing research on Flying Solo, it stood out to me as a business that does a lot for designers. And the first question I had for you is, how did you get into the fashion industry and how did you get into this business?
Well, you get it absolutely right. It is very designer centric and it was for a reason. I'm actually a designer myself. I'm a jewelry designer, and the Flying Solo started from a need for me personally to have a place like Flying Solo. And turns out I was not alone in my journey, and many other brands wanted to place like this. So basically, the biggest problem for independent brand is you grow to a certain size, you start having clients. So clearly you start having market fit for your product. So people keep returning to purchase your things. They love wearing it. They brag to their friends about it. And you get a little bit of an early success, but what do you do next? So the question always becomes, how do you get into big media? Like, how do you get on the pages of Vogue and Elle and Harper's? How do you go to the biggest runways, New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, Milan? How do you become a part of the retail store? Because all of us know that big retailers are almost impossible to get in. And even if you get in, they require such a big minimums that very often, even if you select it, you absolutely cannot fund the order on your own. So how do you do all that without having the significant chunk of money behind all this? So, and as I mentioned, I wasn't alone in 2016 in my search for something, for an alternative route for an independent brand. So Flying Solo was created by designers and for designers. It was originally 10 of us, 10 designers who started. We quickly became 30, 50, 100, and now we over 200 brands between our two stores in New York and Paris. And the way Flying Solo was always designed is we thought of what we needed first, what we as designers needed first. So first and foremost, we actually needed a retail store where we can sell on our terms. The biggest problem that a lot of people do not realize for independent designers is, first stage, you need to be able to experiment with your new pieces. So you do not know yet what is going to sell, how it's going to fit on an actual customer, at what price point customer is going to buy. So you need to bring it in front of the real client and then trying to figure out what will sell on a bigger scale. When you're trying to get into a wholesale market, that test is not possible. Even if someone purchased your collection and if somehow you had enough money to finance that order, if the order doesn't sell, that will be it for you as a brand. That retailer will never come back to you. You need to have that experimentation period, and that's what we give in Flying Solo. So at the very beginning, from the very beginning, our designers were able to bring even their very sample collection, see if this item sells, adjust it as we go. And oftentimes throughout this couple years of experimenting, they were able to change their path, pivot, oftentimes from one subcategory of clothing to another to see where the better fit is. And that's how it becomes stronger brand. So only after that period of experimentation, when they figure out the actual, what sells within their collection, what fit's supposed to be, what price point supposed to be, only then they're ready to go to the next step. And usually when they exit Flying Solo, so we grow brands from smaller brands in the market it to mid-sized brands. And after that, we are so happy when they go into the big world to open their own stores, go to the big retailers when they're fully ready.
Love it. I'm so curious. I'm not an industry insider, but it does seem like fashion is very competitive. No, they say the more
It is.
fun industry is, the more competitive it gets. And I'm curious, what were some of the big challenges that you guys encountered in the early days of flying solo?
Funny that you mentioned how competitive a fashion industry is, because that's literally was their early concerns were. So in 2016, when we opened, fashion industry was not about collaboration. Right now, we see all the brands collaborating between each other. They create collections together. But funny enough, just 10 years ago, it was far from the truth. Everybody was against each other. And our very first, when we were already 30 designers, so we opened our big, well, big at a time. Right now, store significantly bigger. But what felt big for us back then, store on Mulberry Street in Soho here in New York. And people will often come to us and say, well, that will never work because different designers under one roof, it's just not possible. You guys end up all fighting between each other, who is better, who is not, competing, and that's how it's going to fall apart. I'm not sure what made people say those cruel things, but for me, it was always nonsense. I don't come. While I was jewelry designer before starting flying solo, my training and my previous career comes from different creative fields. So I was in film industry and before in design industry for graphic design for a very long time. Amazing about creative teams, it has to be a team in order for it to work. So you're always surrounded by other creatives. You bounce ideas. No film set is done by one person. You have to have a team to collaborate, and it's so fun to be around other creatives. So that's how I saw fashion industry. For us, that first 30 designers, we would bring our new collections to Flying Solo, and someone will mention something is that, oh, you can do this better, and I learned this technique, and this can be also done, and I found this manufacturer, and all of us were just collaborating on how to make each other better. And that's what I felt creative industry always been like, sharing these creative things and be fun. So for me, when people said like that fashion industry is highly competitive and everybody against each other, it was nonsense. So we proved them wrong. 10 years later, we're still here, bigger than ever. So I think at the end, fashion industry can collaborate, and you just need to find the right people to do so.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And having said that, what were some of those big challenges that you remember from the early days of your journey?
Well, reality was that it was ambitious group of designers that didn't know anything at the very beginning, and it was both blessing and a curse. Blessing because we didn't know how many challenges ahead of us, and curse because I mean we again didn't know anything how to do. So very simple things we had to figure out on our own. Everything from how to greet customer, how to package merchandise, how to ship it, how to deal with stylists, how to do a stylist pool, how to deal with publication, how to work with the magazine so you get the pictures back, how to produce your very first runway show. We had absolutely no idea how to do that. But what blessing came out of that, because we didn't know the quote unquote the right way of doing things, we just did it our way. Sometimes we tripped and fell and figure out why our things didn't work, but oftentimes we found a better way to do things, because fashion industry is a very old industry, and I do believe that a lot of things need to be redone in order to move forward. It currently doesn't work. It's a lot of things, and I'm sure I keep hearing it, just do not longer work as it used to be. Wholesale model does really work anymore. Big retail stores are failing, and within the life of Flying Solo, while we kept growing, opening ceremony closed down, Barney's closed down, and Barney's used to be the biggest thing ever that all designers dreamt of being in. But again, it comes because
By the way, if you're looking to build your team with incredible overseas talent, check us out at paired.so. We help you find your perfect overseas hire that delivers world-class results for the fraction of the local cost for the same role. If for whatever reason you don't end up hiring anyone, you pay nothing, so it's 100% risk-free, we would love to chat and see if we can help you and your business, link is in the description. Now back to the pod.
A lot of systems are no longer working for consumers, for designers. So it has to be a better way. And I believe we provide that.
Love it. Love it. And how many team members do you guys have at this point?
Between our New York office, Paris office, and remote team is over 50 people.
So that's a lot of people to manage.
Definitely a lot of people to manage, but it's quite fun. I think our favorite time of the year is our fashion week. So we often try to bring a lot of team from, if we traveling to Paris, we'll bring a lot of team from New York to travel to Paris to do our show and so on. And it's for all of us to meet, given that we live in a different countries, and often our members that are remote also travel to be a part of it. So yeah, it's quite fun, but definitely a lot of people to manage.
You know what we do at Paired, it all has to do with recruiting, with finding the best fit. So this is one of my favorite topics to explore is what kind of team culture do you guys want in flying solo, and how do you create it?
So team culture was always about collaboration and individual responsibility and growth. I personally believe that while not everybody will be with flying solo forever, it doesn't have to be a forever job for every single person, but it has to be something that will add to their journey. So it's great when people grew within the team for multiple years and then went on their own. We have a lot of team members. We not only grow designers, we also grow team members. So they became completely different people after experiencing flying solo, and went to do bigger things on their own, which I personally find is a big blessing for us. I mean, for me, it was always fun to be a part of the very beginning. And we hire a lot of people that are creative, ambitious, that want to change the world for the better. And that's always been a culture of flying solo.
Okay, amazing, great to hear. And I'm curious, how do you filter for the right cultural fit? Having so many team members, I'm sure you have a lot of experience already. I'm curious, what's your way of seeing when that person is applying for the position? What's your way of seeing if they're the right fit?
The only way to really see is to try it out. And we will not be a fit for everybody, and not everybody will be a fit for us. And it's totally normal. We are still running a company very much like a startup, but with a very big focus on designers. So while the core group, of people that work within the company is actually designers themselves. So this is the original part of the designers that started the store. We still work all together. So for us, everybody need to think of a new, better ways to service our designers better, to help them grow faster, to make their shows bigger, to make more for them within the press that we do. So we always need to think about that. And again, our culture is about growth and fun, but not everybody will be a fit for us. So normally we try it out, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's again totally fine. Not everything is for everybody in this world.
Yeah, yeah, of course, that makes total sense. And so when you first started building this team, Elizabeth, did you have a moment or an experience when you realized, you talk about collaboration a lot? Was there a
Yeah.
moment of or experience when you realized like, oh wow, delegating this to the right person is like a total game changer, or like when things clicked, then you saw the power of having the right team members in place?
As I mentioned, I worked in video film industry before, and I was producer. So producer is ultimately the person who makes sure that we have enough resources to do certain things, and we actually do it on time and on budget. So I guess in a way, my role in Flying Solo is very similar to that. Yes, different setting, different tasks, different events that we do, but still the same. And my personal philosophy is to empower people to go and figure out things on their own within the company. I'm not a micromanager. Everybody who works with me know that they have a freedom to bring new, better ideas than me. And I always say, I don't want to be the smartest person on the room, because if I'm the smartest, then our team is really failing. I want you guys to be experts in your fields, experts in the department that you manage, and you need to bring me information about how we can do things better. And then we have a really great team.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned a couple key things, not wanting to be the smarter person in the room, not wanting to micromanage. That gives me a really good idea of the kind of leader that you are. And I think there's a kind of place where I can see creatives really wanting to work as well. You don't want someone breathing down on your neck at all times, right?
100%. Yeah.
What I'm curious about is, this unique model that you guys have is that, you guys have your stores, you guys are a boutique, but then you also help fellow designers. What were some of the, if you have any, outstanding results or stories that you guys got from, connecting a designer with a fashion show or with an opportunity? That'll be really interesting to hear.
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of amazing stories where we grew brands again from baby brands to much bigger brands. And just to clarify, so we do manage our own retail stores. So we work on a membership basis, and brands pay us a membership fee to be a part of our services. So whether it's just retail, just press showroom, retail and press showroom, or whether they want to be a part of our shows. There are different packages for that, but we do it all in house. So we do not outsource any of our work to anyone else. So we fully responsible for the results of it and the quality of the things. So a few examples that already happen. I guess the very first one was a brand called Apari. New Yorkers, especially women, I'm sure you already saw it, saw the brand many times in winter. So it's those vegan fur coats that are very colorful. And when it gets to super cold time in New York, you see tons of them on the streets of New York. They started with us, and they literally brought the very first collection. I think they are literally a month older than Flying Solo, so they were a month old and we're just about to start out. And the two co-founders, they came to us and they're like, okay, let's try it out. Funny enough, a lot of people that wear and know Apari now, again, know them for their outerwear, but they didn't start this way. They actually start with the full clothing line, and they were able to experiment within Flying Solos. So they had skirts and tops and dresses, and they had only one vegan fur coat. And out of the whole thing, only one thing was selling out. So they didn't take it as a failure. They took it as a success. They're like, okay, at least one item sold. How about we bring that item in two colors? So they did two colors. Again, sold out. Next season, when they came back, they already came back just with outerwear. So they only had the vegan fur coats, multiple colors. Then they figure out like different shapes and bodies for them. And they started growing so fast, and that eventually they end up living because they opened their own store, and they start being carried in Bloomingdale's and Saks, and they've been with Flying Solo for 3 years, like experimenting, figuring it out. And then the magic moment happened. We're still really good friends with the co-founders. And funny enough, their office is just 10 minutes away from Flying Solo. And they also came to our podcast. They came to our event, and attribute their early success to Flying Solo, that ability to experiment and figure out what is actually brand Apari and how they are going to move forward would not be possible without their ability to bring like the next sample the next day whenever they feel like it and see how it actually works. So this is just one example. It's tons of them, and more is growing up because at the beginning, again, we were a much smaller group. Now we grow, we have 200 brands at any given point. So many more success stories came after that. Many more will come, and I'm very excited for all of the designers who took the chance. They're like, okay, let's try to figure it out, and went for it. And now they, in the process of becoming, already became much bigger brands that they were just.
Yeah, that's an amazing success story. And what would you say, Elizabeth, for an up and coming designer who's looking for a space like Flying Soar, looking for that opportunity? What do you think is the requirement for someone like that? Obviously, from the story you told, it sounds like you guys, for example, provide an amazing space to experiment, and for the business side of things, create space to discover like a product market fit. right? But what do the designers need to have already set in order to be a good fit to collaborate with you guys, for example?
There are a couple of things that we're looking for. And first of all, it's an original point of view. So when we review applications, and by the way, anyone can fill out the applications. It's Flying Solo NYC Instagram. We have a link in bio, so you can go there, read through different terms that we have, different things that we offer. So all the information is there if anyone is curious. But we look for original point of view. And when we look for applications, we do not segment them as, oh, this is a young designer or this is much more established designer, but they want to come to a new market. So we have a big segment of that. Oftentimes brands come from Europe to US, for example. They not yet want to open their own store here, but they want to experiment. They're like, okay, let's see how it goes, see what's actually fit here. So they also come. So unique point of view. And of course, we also want to make sure that it will be fit for our client, the ones that we already have here for the past 10 years. We've grown our customer base quite a bit. And that client, sure, he's looking for something unique and original. And oftentimes we have pieces in our store that's literally the only dress in New York that we'll find, or sometimes even in the United States, it will be literally the only item anyone can purchase. So isn't this exciting to like wear something that no one else in the whole country will have? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited about that. That's why my closet is very much full of flying solar pieces. But yeah, that's how we select designers. And of course, we select them by season. So New York is very seasonal place. We have cold in winter and hot in summer. So we curate for those things as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Amazing, Elizabeth. I really appreciate you sharing all of this, both about your hiring process, about your culture, about your business model, about what you're doing in the fashion industry. As a closing message, I'm very curious. What would you say to someone that wants to get into the fashion industry, but with a different perspective and with a different model like you have? What would be your message for that person starting out?
Well, make sure that you actually love it because fashion industry is not the easiest industry to be in. There are definitely much better industries to make money in. So if you love it, if you truly cannot live without fashion, somehow you happen to be that weird person who just live and breathe fashion, then go for it. But if you do it just because you think there is better opportunities here, I think there could be better opportunities somewhere else. So just make sure that you have passion.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Absolutely. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, we'll leave a link to everything Flying Solo in the description. And appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for having me.